Hey guys, welcome to this question and answer session with the Pattern Trader. My name is Mark Shawzin, the Pattern Trader. Be happy to talk about the markets, answer any questions that you guys have, talk about what I'm doing. Markets are fairly erratic right now. These yen pairs are climbing higher. The trajectory looks like they are going to go much higher, particularly the euro versus the Japanese yen. The U.S. stock market is a very muddled and mixed picture. We've got the NASDAQ up and the Dow down. So we have this conflict between growth and cyclical and momentum, back and forth. This has become very much a stock pickers environment. And I have been actively short QuantumScape, ticker symbol QS. It's trading under $25. I've been shorting this name from $50. And I still have a heavy short position in QuantumScape. Bitcoin is down. We've had huge volatility in that sector. I don't know if it's a preview of coming attractions where it just becomes a liquidity crisis and flows from one asset group to another. One stock that I'm looking at for tomorrow announces earning is ticker symbol SNOW, SNOW. I think it's reached heavy resistance here at about 235, and I would anticipate that it goes lower after the announcement tomorrow. So pick up the phone, get on YouTube, and let's have a chat about the markets. Tell me what you're looking at. Tell me if you have any questions. And we can, go from there. Looking at Tesla. Tesla got some support last week at 560. We hit around the 615 area yesterday. I think this is a heavy area of resistance. And so going to be very interesting to see where we go from here. I think the stock indexes are at a great risk of crashing here. I am long the puts in the QQQs. I'm long some Dow puts here. So I think that we could get a sell-off in these markets. So let me know what you guys are trading. Let me know what you guys are up to. So let me know if you guys have any questions. I see there's a couple of, hey buddy, how are you? I am, I guess, as well as can be expected. I'm recovering from a surgery and pretty incapacitated here. So I'm just actively trading the markets to create a distraction for myself and doing quite well at it. I've had a very bountiful. So Richard says, what QQQ puts? So I bought, let me see what I bought. Sometimes I forget. I think the 330s will expire on Friday. I have to check back into my account here. So I bought the Dow puts. I'll tell you in 1 minute, Richard. I have a pretty full menu here. And I shouldn't because the things are so erratic. So I am long the 342 Dow puts at about 96 cents. And I am long the 330 QQQ puts around $1.50. And heavily short the stock of QuantumScape, ticker symbol QS. So, yeah, I mean, shorting the index has kind of become a fool's game, but I don't know. I did so well last week. I shorted it on a key reversal, and then the next day the Dow opened 500 points lower, and I made a huge amount of money. And then that day the Dow reversed, closed on the high. I bought the calls and made a whole bunch of money on that day. Today, it's really not a good idea to trade in the middle of the day. It's kind of arbitrary. It can go anywhere. But I just felt like, we're at a heavy resistance level here, and I just waited in there and started buying these puts. So we'll see what happens. I bought the 330s that expire on Friday, Dick, and again, I'm just trying to get a bump here. I'm bought about $1.50. Let's see where they go from here. I'm starting to get the feeling that a lot of these stocks have run up, but they're about to turn lower. I like Snow lower, SNOW. Snow announces earnings after the market tomorrow. I'm probably going to get short today or certainly tomorrow before the earnings. Hi, GK. How you doing? Hajan says the pound New Zealand dollar crashed. Pound New Zealand does what it normally does. It just goes up and down in this 195 to 198 range. I would probably buy these sell-offs. It's just in a trading range, batting around, but I have faith that this thing will go higher. Atul, thank you for your kind words. Dog wants to look at HPQ. Yeah, it kind of looks like it's found some resistance in this level. We had a break to new highs. Looked like that could be a bull trap up there. So yeah, we kind of consolidating lower here. I don't know if that would be first on my radar, but yeah, it looks like it's got some resistance in here. I'm also shorted a stock called AYX. I don't even know what that is. I think one of you guys brought that up last week, and I've been short that stock. It's trading around the $76 range. It's in this descending wedge. It's got all of these reversals. I don't really see how it can go higher. So in the meantime, it just messes around here, and we'll see what happens. I've got both the stock and the options short AYX. Alvin says long VIX. I don't know about that. I'm looking at UVXY. Still can't get off the ground. Maybe, if this market turns around, maybe, you could take a crack at it. It's a toss up. I think, you're at support here at this $4 area, UVXY, and stranger things could happen. You could get a bid out of here. But he says, does it mean that there's a corrective move? I just think there's resistance here, and I'll just take a push. I mean, right now the markets are just banging, against, ranges. So, like I said, last week I was short. Market opened 500 points lower. I covered my shorts. It reversed, closed on the longs. I bought some calls, and I covered my longs the next day. And I made just so much money just, banging the ranges here. So I just shorted against the highs today, feeling that, we could have reached a good resistance up there. And I'll kind of get a feeling for, what's going on here. It's been kind of a fool's errand to try and, predict these indexes. And I think they're going to go at best now into a huge trading range. They just can't sustain this upside momentum each day, every day. So I think at some point, if you get these rallies, you can kind of short into them. But I like to see how a market closes relative to the high and low. So when I bought put options on the QQQs last Friday, the market made a new high and closed on the low on Friday. I think it was last Friday. And then the very next day, the Dow, gap down 500 points. The QQQs were down 600 points. And I just took my victory lap. I mean, I made $97,000 in one overnight in the Dow Jones calls. The puts. I haven't really traded the Dow Jones puts, but I started trading them, and then they collapsed 250 points, on one day, and then opened the next day down 500 points. So I made like 97 grand on those calls. And then the day it collapsed, it also reversed, made a new low, closed on the high. So then I bought calls. So I like to wait to see how something closes to give me a reference so that I can understand a risk reward dynamic. Right now, when you do something in the middle of the day like I did today, it's really a gamble. I'll tell you flat out. I just had an instinct. I just sold into it, and we'll see what happens. And GK says, what do I think of Euro Australian? Haven't looked at that pair in a while, actually. Yeah, it looks like it's got a double bottom at that 152 and is in the process of turning around. There's some resistance right here at 159, so I can imagine it will bang around here for some time, but it does look like it's caught a bottom. This is a long-term uptrend. It had a fake breakout to the downside, and so I think over time that should work its way higher. Dog wants an APLS. APLS. I would have learned some interesting ticker symbols from you guys. Yeah, we've got a nice key reversal today. It's in a huge distribution resistance band. It's just, been very, it could break out of here, but I don't know. It's a very tight trading range. So, I like to see things that are going to break out from one area to the other. And this is in a very, restricted range from 43 to 51. So it does look like it's heavy in here. Today's reversal looks bad, and maybe you could start coming off here. But, there's probably some better things to look at. So I'm heavily short QuantumScape. It's coming down to the lows of the day, which were the lows yesterday. Around 24.5 was the low yesterday. I think we made a new low today. So that thing is working itself down, making lower lows every day. And I've just been short QuantumScape forever. I'm making so much money on that thing. So Philippe, yes, I would always wait for a key reversal in the direction that I'm looking to go in to underpin it. Getting in the middle like I did with these puts, it's really gambling. You're just picking a spot and hoping that something's going to happen. I prefer to let the market show me, so then I can also understand the risk. So whenever I have a key reversal, then I can understand where to get in the momentum and how to quantify my risk. Right now, I on these indexes, I don't know where you put your risk. It's pretty arbitrary, maybe to today's highs, so I like to have a reversal behind me to, put me on the straight and narrow and give me an understanding where to join the trade and how to understand my risk. Hey, Yoni, hope everything is safe for you in Israel. I think things should have been starting to calm down there. Alvin says, why do you prefer puts or inverse ETF? So sometimes I do everything. Sometimes I'll buy the SQQQs. Sometimes I'll buy the UVXY. If I'm looking for a quick play, I'll buy, puts or calls. So it really depends on what I'm expecting from the move and how fast that move is, going to come. So right now, I think we're getting a bit of a collapse in these indexes while I'm talking to you. So the QQQs are coming down to the lows of the day right now. So, I guess it was a good gamble, and that's really what it was. I just feel like I put out in my weekly video report this week, that these indexes are in these broad, ascending, broadening wedges. And I said, look, it's fully possible they go up, they make even new highs, but they're still trading within these these ascending, broadening wedges. And at some point, I do expect to see a retest of the low side of these, triangles. Yoni wants to know about GPS. Gap. Looks like it put in, some resistance here. Looks like it got a bit of a triple top. Looks like it's going to break this trend line. It looks like already has broken this trend line. So Yoni, maybe, this is, it's starting to break. I think that break, I see this long-term trend line. I can just see it visually, and I can see now we've broken underneath it. So I think you're starting to get a breakout to the downside on some of these things like Tesla, ARKK. They've broken this long-term trend line. I showed this trend line on my weekly video report this week, and that's the thing you really want to keep an eye on. I'd say right around 315 in the triple Qs is where that thing will penetrate. And once it does, I think we're going to get clocked this time. It's really been bouncing off this long-term trend line for a year. And every time it bounces off it, but I think it's going to run out of energy the next time. And already Tesla, ARKK, a bunch of these things are starting to drop under that long-term trend line. So you're starting to see some cracks in the, in the wall here. Dennis says, do you ever sell the opposite? So that is the best way to make money trading options, is to write puts and calls, because most of them expire worthless. And I do that, especially if there's going to be, if I just see an extended trading range, you can sell out of the money calls against out of the money puts. And if the market just bangs in between, you take the premium of both sides. So yeah, I do a bit of everything. Philippe says, regarding gold, do you think it's so gold? I don't know. Gold has every signal of why I should be long, and yet I just have this feeling that, I don't know. I just hopped out. I took a bunch of money last week, and I think there's some, you have another key reversal today. So, I mean, it does look empirically good that it should continue going up. It's got these monster reversals at 1950. So you still maybe have another $50 of runway before it gets into a real turbulent area here. I don't know. I just legged out, and silver's at the upper end of this trading range and still looks good to the upside. So these things should go higher. I mean, the dollar looks like it's going to make new lows soon. And so eventually these things should go higher. I just legged out and haven't gotten back in. And I guess my attention is just elsewhere right now. Crude oil, you hit this upside resistance level at $68. And, I think that's a pretty, 68 to 75 is a lot of long-term multi-year resistance in here. So I think you're also in a, trading range here between 58 and 66 here. So, I would expect prices to bounce within that range probably for quite some time. So I'm always looking for trades that are going to break from one level to the other, that have some kind of clear runway. So yesterday you closed at an all-time low for QuantumScape in months. And so now there's no support. There's nothing underneath it. They're just, I don't know where it stops, 22, 21, 18, 15, but there's like nothing in its way. So when I get in a trade, I like to see a path of least resistance where there's no obstruction. And, something like, QuantumScape has just broken down and, just makes new lows every day now. So, those are the kinds of things that I'm looking for. And then I look for, points of like resistance, like snow. I think has got a big double top. It's in a downtrend. It hit that 235 resistance. And now we've got this key reversal lower today. And then we've got earnings at the, so SNOW. I think there's a lot of resistance here at 235. So now, I would see that there's kind of a nice pathway back to whatever, 215. Yoni says, would you sell the NASDAQ if it closes with a key reversal? Probably. I mean, I am short today. And the question is, do I take profits at some point if it gives me a nice thing? Because, in these things, you kind of have to take your profits when you can. I mean, they bounce all over the place. They're up, they're down, they're sideways. So I'll kind of have to see it. But yes, I was short a couple of days ago. It was, I'll tell you exactly when that was. That was May 18th. So I don't know when that was. That was a 18th was last Tuesday. So you had a huge key reversal in the QQQs. It went to 326, closed at 322. And I bought puts, before it closed, and then the next morning just opened 600 points lower, and then it opened 600 points lower, and then closed on the high, and then I bought calls there. So it's really good to see how the market closes relative to the high and low. So you have an idea of where to get in and what your risk is. So today we're looking like we have a reversal. Where early in the day we went to a new high. And now we're coming almost through yesterday's close is right about here, 22.57. So yeah. So now if we close with a reversal, I would expect it to follow through. But frankly, I would probably take my profits. And then what I like to do is, have an elastic band. So if we close on the low today, what I'd like to see tomorrow is to have some kind of rally, and then I'll short into that rally using today's key reversal as a kind of a barometer of where I can establish my risk. But let's see where we go today. I mean, these things are all over the place all day, but this is reversing right in an area of heavy resistance. And again, I do expect at some point that we're going to retest this uptrend line in the NASDAQ. We keep bouncing off of it. And the next time we go back to, I would say even last week's lows, which are about, the 315 level, 315, 310 in the QQQs. If we get back there again, I don't think you're going to see the support. You're just going to see it go through. Jazz says, any comment on cryptos? My only comment is I told you so. So I shouldn't say that's pretty, arrogant thing to say. So whenever a market goes like this, a hockey stick, QuantumScape was the same thing. If you look at QS, it went from $9 to $130, just like one of these hockey sticks. And when you see those things, it's just not sustainable. So whatever that instrument is, just know that it's unsustainable. And so look, cryptos went from 30 to 40 to 50. And, I'm thinking, should I get in? There's no way I was going to get in. My wife loves these things. She's on these TikTok, videos all day. She's listening to crypto. And I was begging her to get out of 65 grand, just take some off. I said, whenever the market gives you 1,000% return, say, thank you very much, and if it makes another 500% for the next guy, so be it. And so at some point, I've traded long enough. When the market hands you, roses, take them. So right now, where do they go from here? I don't know. It's a guessing game. I just I don't believe in them. I don't know. I don't understand them. I don't know what they are based on. So yeah, I think that maybe we'll get a dead cat bounce. We kind of we went to 41 yesterday. We're now at 38. So I would kind of leave these alone. If it gets back to $500 again, maybe you can buy them. Stefan is looking at AEO. Yeah, I like that. American Eagle. So, I guess Yoni brought up Gap, American Eagle. So a lot of these retailers, I guess, had their day. It looks like there's a triple top here. There's, it looks like there's going to be a reversal here. We're in this area. It's hard to tell, but I would keep an eye on this one. I mean, it also looks like it's sitting right on its long-term trend line. Let me just draw that real quick. You got to assume that the best assumptions for retailers are already kind of baked in the cake. There's already a discounting on the reopening. So there is a trend line that comes in around $31. So if you break that, then you break support. But it does look like there is a, triple top up here. You broke the neckline around $34. And so, it looks like these retailers are starting to break momentum. Making new lows on the QQQs right now. Making new lows on QuantumScape. So to me, that's just a no-brainer. I know it's only a $24 stock. I mean, at the end of the day, a stock can only go to zero. So at some point it becomes, a little bit of a nebulous risk reward. But, even if this thing drops from 24 to 20, that's still, a 20% move. So I think there's more on the table here. And the thing about QuantumScape is I've been shorts from 42. So at some point, I don't even watch it anymore. I'm just going to let it do its thing, go all over the place, but it's just working its way down every day. To me, that was one of the best risk reward. And that's what I look, so I talk a lot about risk and risk management. And I've always talked about risk management in terms of, the percentage of risk on your trading account. So that I typically recommend, certainly if you're new, is if, don't take any more than 0.5% risk on any given trade. So if you have a $10,000 account and you bet 0.5% risk, you're going to lose $50. And even if you have 10 bad trades, you're still only going to lose 5% of your account. Whereas if you have 10 bad trades and you're betting 3%, now you're down 30%. It's a huge difference. But to me, there's just a risk per trade where, every trade you set up, you look at taking 0.5%, and that's fine. But then sometimes the market gets into the stage where the pattern is so mature. And what I mean by the pattern being mature is that actually QuantumScape, if you look at the chart, it went from $9 to $130 in December and then crashed down to $60. And it was basically over then. It put on a big head and shoulders. And in December, I knew that the game was up, that this was going to reverse and go lower over time. Now, the key phrase there is over time, because it took 6 months of kind of giving you head fakes and all kinds of misdirections and all kinds of stuff to get to the point where it kind of, went from 50 to 60, 50 to 60, then 40 to 50, and then 30 to 40. So it kind of was coming down the stair. And then at some point, it had this neckline around $40. It kept on bouncing off this neckline. But then after a while, all of the bounces were exhausted. And I knew, and I said on a webinar in front of 500 people, I don't know, it was 3-4 weeks ago when it was at $41. It kind of reversed from 42 and closed at 40, a bit of a reversal. And I said right then and there, I know this is really reckless and I shouldn't tell this to, people who really don't know what they're doing. That I said there's no risk in this trade, meaning there was no risk in my mind that I saw that QuantumScape could go higher. So when I see the market kind of drilling down more and more and more, and if pound New Zealand starts getting back to 198, after it kind of does all of this stuff and flushes out all the weak hands, so many times, the risk actually starts getting drilled out of the trade. So there's less and less risk, when you get in. So, sometimes, and I hate to say this because it's going to be easily misinterpreted. The reason why I like QuantumScape so well, and I keep on coming back to that, is that it put on a set of patterns and price action that, in this range of 40, 38 to $40, I could see that there was almost no risk on my entry. I knew when I got in there, I couldn't foresee any risk, beyond my entry. And I'll be honest with you. When I see those trades, I don't even think about risk on my account. I just load up. I shorted like collectively over 100,000 shares in QuantumScape at around $38, and put a big chunk of my money, in there. But to me, it was in an area where there was no risk, and it sounds terrible, and the thing is, if the market started giving me just one inkling that I was wrong, that it gave me one look that this was going to, then I would have paired my position very quickly. So there's, risk management is a risk per trade. And then by virtue of, where a market gets, the risk gets drilled out. QuantumScape is making new lows right now, 24.35. Now, another little stock that I like here is AYX. And I think the risk is getting less and less. I mean, I don't know if AYX is going to go down, today, tomorrow, 3 days from now, but I can't see any way that AYX can go higher. So I don't know when it's going to go down, if it's going to go down, but I can't see that if I'm short, I just can't see any risk now. I mean, every day kind of goes $1 higher and then close on the low. And it's been doing this for, a while now, and it's kind of descending into this pattern. The stock markets, are now getting crunched and all on the lows. So I guess I'm doing pretty well on those puts. And so risk is, a function of, amount you bet per trade. But then sometimes, the market gives you a little gem where it just coils into a certain area where the risk gets, less and less. And then other areas where, like Tesla, it's kind of like in the middle of these huge ranges and you don't really understand where the risk is. So you might take a bet, but I'm not going to load it up like I did with QuantumScape. I don't have the same, feeling that, I'm in an area where, I understand the risk as well. There was a question about Beyond Meat. Do you think Beyond Meat is breaking up now? So, BYND to me is probably a dead cat bounce. It broke a long-term trend line, neckline at 115. I'm going to be very interested to see where we close here. So there was big, there's a gap up yesterday, no follow through today. So I would expect this thing to keep going lower. Philippe says, Mark, when you say stocks go from price, from value, what is it? Okay. So Philippe, the NASDAQ is filled with these tech growth stocks. And a growth stock is a company that doesn't have any earnings. Its earnings are projected into the future. A company like Zoom or Peloton is probably a good example of that. These are hyper growth stocks where the market is betting on the future prospects of these companies. And that's all good when you've had a momentum like we've had during COVID, where you had a huge exponential move, you had multiple expansion, and we could see, future revenues, into infinity. Now that's all changed with higher interest rates and growth forecast probably decelerating. So Zoom made all of its money last year, or huge chunk. It's going to make money this year, but it's probably the comparisons are going to look less and less. Meantime, the multiples are so high, and so those are examples of what is called a growth stock. Now, a value stock or a cyclical stock is something like Procter and Gamble or an oil company or a REIT or something that's, people buy for their dividends. And so, there are certain sectors of the market. And every day you've had a rotation. One day it's the NASDAQ growth stocks, then they dump the growth stocks, and now they're buying all of the, Caterpillar and Deere and all of the NASDAQ industrial stocks. And then, next day they go into cyclicals and buy, Colgate Palmolive and, Costco and things of that nature. So you just had this, giant rotation every single day. One day it's like, okay, is this growth sell-off over? Every day there's a discussion on the TV. It's like the NASDAQ's up, and so everyone's saying, well, is it back to growth today? And then the NASDAQ gets hammered tomorrow, and then is it value today? So what you've really had is that you've had these, it's actually been pretty healthy because you've had these indexes all creeping to all-time highs. And people say, well, it's just not sustainable. But actually what you've also had is a purging within those indexes. So, the stocks like FCell and QuantumScape and Tesla and Zoom and Peloton are all off 30 to 50 to 70% from their highs, even though the NASDAQ is at or near an all-time high. So you've had this internal rotation and churning from one sector to the other, purging of one section to the other, while the actual indexes are still making their way broadly higher. And so, I don't know if that, Stefan wants to know about FTCH. Yeah, I like this one. Let me just, I think we've talked about this one before, Stefan. I think, and this one looks, pretty good. You have a reversal today, so you have a nice head and shoulders. So what I like to see is when I open up a chart, I say to myself, what is the phase or the direction? So this has dropped from $73 to $40. So the direction is lower. Then I say to myself, is there a chart pattern that is kind of directing the traffic, telling me which way this is likely to go? And there's a giant head and shoulders. And then I try and drill it down to a bar like today, where you make a new high and you close on the low. So now you can make a pretty good bet that you could short it here and, put your stop somewhere above today's high. So that's an example of a trade that, I would do. The question is, does it have a clear path? Because it has some history to the left at 35. So it's been bouncing. So it's just a question, how we clear out this thing. But, that does look like it's double top right here. It has a key reversal, and there are a lot less, a lot worse trades. I mean, that is, probably a decent trade to take. Paul says, when you say you load up, I really shouldn't tell you what I do individually because, I have certain thresholds that I'm willing to accept. And I put, way, you know, uh, way more than I probably should have, but I just felt like there was no risk. So when I loaded up in QuantumScape, at $37, and I had about 65,000 shares short, and I had about 35,000 puts, based on 35,000 shares, 350 puts. So that's about $100,000 bet. That's about a $4 million bet. That's putting $4 million into one idea, and it's kind of crazy, but I've done crazier things in my life. So to me, yeah, I will make those kind of crazy things. It looks reckless. If I told anybody what I was doing, they'd say you're out of your mind. Meantime, I made $1 million in the last 2 weeks. So so now that bet, making $1 million. So now, when I load it up again, I accrue these gains, and so I try and make my wins much bigger than my losses. So that's what allows me to take some of these bets. But I shouldn't project that. I shouldn't lead you guys astray and lead you guys to now just want to do that. The tortoise wins the race. It took me 20 years from starting from nowhere to build to where I can take this bet. And to me, it wasn't really a risky bet. I know it sounds crazy if I say it here, but there are certain times when the market gets into a certain thing where you have the direction, the pattern, all of the the head fakes, and it drills down and drills down and keeps drilling down, and then you get a set of bars where I said it on a webinar, in front of 500 people, and then I put on another little thing, and to me, there's just no risk here. It's making new lows every day. There's no way it can go up, and so it looks crazy, but that's what I do. AYX is a little gem here where I kind of loaded up here. We'll see where it goes. Right now, it's not doing anything, but I can't see how it's going to go up. So at some point, it's going to go down. I have these long-term puts. It doesn't expire till June 18th on AYX, so I've still got a month to hang out and see what it's going to do there. So GK, I've talked about gold. I mean, the path of least resistance in gold seems higher. I just think you're going to get into these headwinds between 1900 and 1950, and you still got a little bit of room there. So I would buy gold on a dip. I don't know if I would kind of but I could be wrong. I mean, gold looks like I should be long. Look for you. What about Micron? I'm assuming you're talking about MU. Looks like it's hitting some resistance pockets here. It actually looks like it's formed a head and shoulders. It's still a relatively strong stock, so I'd probably look for weaker stocks to go short. But it looks like there's resistance here. So guess what? If the Nasdaq starts coming apart here, everything's going to get taken apart, and then it's just a question of which are the most vulnerable stocks, which are the ones that look like the best to go after. And I'm looking at Snow, which is down about 2% today. It's got a nice reversal. Let me just check out Dash real quick. DASH. It's also on my radar. I think that comes down. I think you hit a resistance here, and now you're coming out of this coil. You've had like a 6-day coil, and it looks like you're breaking to the downside. So I think Dash will probably break lower. Um, Netflix, I don't know about that. These first tier stocks are still, that does look like it's got a long-term distribution going on here. It's just been in a long-term trading band, but this does look like, let me go to the weekly. Yeah, you see, I wouldn't short Netflix. I wouldn't short it. That's too much resistance in here. I mean, it does have a double top. It's got to get through that 580. There's a couple lows at 580, which are still $20 away. So maybe but again, I think there are better stocks to look at. QuantumScape on the low of the day. Silver's on the upper edge of a ascending triangle. I would expect silver to go higher over time. Again, it's just in this huge resistance zone, 29 and 30. And it could take weeks, it could take months just to bump and grind through this area. But if you're, got a long-term perspective, it does look like the path of least resistance is higher. So Yoni is about right, about winning percentages. So even if you have a 50-50 win-loss percent ratio, as Yoni said, you can win a fortune. If you have a 3-to-1 risk reward on your trade, meaning that if you're going to risk 50 pips in the dollar yen or pound yen or whatever, and you have an outcome of 150 pips, that means you have a 3-to-1 risk reward. That means that every time you're making a trade, you're looking to make 3 times as much as you're risking. And if you can make those bets, you can actually lose 72% of your trades, which means that you can make money with a 28% win-loss ratio. So I've made huge money on 3 trades this year. Probably more, but 3 big trades. I went long lift in January. I bought the puts on the NASDAQ in mid-February, and I shorted QuantumScape now from $40 to $24. Just 3 trades, and I've been fucking around and everything else, and I'm up and down and all over the place. I don't really even watch them. I made a lot of money in dollar Canadian. I made a lot of money in gold. Actually, I've made a huge amount of money since late January. One of my better streaks, and so I could lose for the rest of the year. And people will call me a scammer and don't know what I'm doing, and yet 3 or 4 trades, made multiple year revenues. So it's not about your losses. It's about, as Yoni said, the quality of your wins. So if you can get short QuantumScape at 40 and be looking at it now at 24, that's what you're looking for. And so in between, if I lose, a bunch of trades on the euro yen or, here and there, it doesn't matter. So I could have 3 winning trades and 17 losing trades and, still be a huge winner. So what I look for is to take a piece out of the middle, out of big moves. Find the QuantumScapes of the world where you can get in at 40 and just ride it like Zorro. I don't know where this thing ends. 22, 18, 15, whatever. Even here, if I got out here, I've made $16 on a $40 stock. That's, 50% on leverage. So that's what I'm looking for in my trades. And in the meantime, if I get, knocked out on a 50 pip stop on the dollar yen or euro pound or what have you, it doesn't matter. So it's not about being perfect. It's finding those few trades a year that extend from one direction to the other. I shorted gold at 1900 and took profits at 1681. I've just had some huge runs, and that's what I look for. So when silver, is like banging around here, I'm kind of not in. I'm looking for a move from one level to the other. It's not to say that silver won't. I just don't think it's ready right now. And so this is what I'm trying to do in my trading. So, when you guys put up names, I try and see, okay, can I see a clear pathway from one level to the other? And even if, it's a short pathway, to make, $5, it's like I'll take small trades if I can understand the risk reward. And it's really about, so many times we're looking at trades thinking about how much money we're going to make on a trade. Whereas I look at it like, how much do I have to risk on this trade? The thing, I keep on coming back to QuantumScape. I mean, there are so many things going on in the world today. There's gold, there's, Tesla, there's all these things, but I have just been like a dog with a bone playing with this QuantumScape because it gave me everything. The way I look at charts visually, it had everything there. It's like it had every ingredient in the dish you'd want. The parabolic exhaustion, the head and shoulders, the double tops, the descending wedge triangle, and then it got more and more mature. And then I saw the price bars started getting bunched up, in such narrow ranges that I think, I thought if I get short here, put a buy stop above this narrow range, I have I had a $2 risk to make $20. Those bets I will do all day long. And they don't look, it took 6 months for QuantumScape to kind of get from where it wasn't. And I made a whole bunch of money. Every time it went to $60, I just shorted it and came back to 50, went back to 60. I was just shorting it all the way along. And then once I understood it was going to break out from that, then, I just, set my sights and that's, so this is what I look for. I kind of look for those things where I can drill down and understand where my risk is. And if I can understand that my risk is small enough, then I can increase my position size and then just hold on and let this thing take me for a ride. And so we're making new lows in QuantumScape right now. It's down 3.5% today. I think it was down 6% yesterday. So the thing is just in free fall now. There's nothing to stop it. There is no support. I am short probably over 70,000 shares right now. And I'm talking to you guys. I'm not worrying about it. I don't care if it goes up 30 cents. There is nothing to support that stock. And so these are the trades where you can get comfortable. So I am short 72,771 shares. I try to get short another 10,000 and they only filled me on a partial, on a pre-opening. That's why I've got that odd amount. MK, what do you want me to look at? Jeet wants to look at Zoom. So I've been looking at Zoom. I think that there's, I saw there was a kind of a bottoming at that 275. And even though I thought it was going to go much lower, that's when, I kind of listened to price action. So I'm going to be very interested to see where Zoom closes today. We've got a lot of resistance in this 320 to 335 level. And so if we can, kind of close on the low, have a reversal, I think maybe Zoom starts, going lower. So kind of, I think there's a lot of resistance. There was a big key reversal in Zoom 2 days ago. And it looks like, the rally is kind of over there. MK says XFC is a big play by Michael Burry. I know Michael Burry also had a huge put position in Tesla. That was an old filing. I don't know if he's gotten rid of his position or not. So I don't know. This is a $7 stock. Is he long this stock, MK? This was a guy who made a ton off the shorting of the housing industry. So MK, is he long or short? SXC. Am I looking S? Because I think there's a lot of resistance right here in this area, and I would kind of leave this alone. Yes, I've got ticker. I'm saying, is Michael Burry long or short this stock? I would kind of leave this one alone. Baidu, I think I looked at this last week and it looked horrible. I can't imagine it's improved. Yeah, Baidu, to me, it's going to probably go lower. Yeah, MK, I understand the ticker symbol. I'm asking, is Michael Burry long or short that stock? I don't see any, I wouldn't do anything with it right now. BBY, Gamma, BBY, Best Buy. I don't know. These retailers, I would think that, the market is a discounting effect, right? And the market has discounted this reopening now for a long time. And now Best Buy's kind of got this double top head and shoulders. And it looks like there's a huge, swath of prices between 100 and 115 that it could fall into. So I think that thing looks like it's going to go lower. So I don't know about that stock. He's a lot longer player than perhaps I am. Looks like there's some resistance coming in on the short and the weekly. Yeah, I don't know about that. It doesn't do anything for me, but that doesn't mean anything. Abdur wants to look at the Australian yen. It's hugging at the upper end of the consolidation. The Australian dollar is just in this long-term consolidation. I think that these things go higher, but I think it will go higher. It's just in this very tight trading range right now. Yeah, I think that Dash goes lower. Look for you. Pound Australian. I think that looks like it's going to go higher also. If it can get certainly above 185, there's a lot of blue sky above there. So it's kind of like the way I feel about Pound New Zealand. I think these things will go higher. Joey says, can you elaborate on your elite service or the pattern accelerator? The pattern accelerator is a once a week program where you get my summary at the end of the week. I go through all of the markets. I do a very comprehensive video, and that comes out once a week. The elite program, you get everything I do as a member. You get my daily emails, the accelerator, the gold program, the Friday, what we call master pattern trader sessions, where I go through the markets in detail. And so it encompasses everything that I do. Savvy wants to know about pound dollar. So the dollar's in a long-term downtrend, and pound is in an uptrend. So we would expect pound US to keep going higher. The dollar's just got some minor support here. It may hold throughout the summer. There's a lot of resistance in pound dollar between 142, 142, and 144. So it could continue to back and fill. My view on that is that I would look to buy the sell-offs. I'd look to buy the dips. So through the summer, sometimes the dollar trading can get very squirrely and just go nowhere. So I just expect that these pairs will continue to consolidate their gains at the upper levels, while the dollar's at the lower levels, and eventually, those levels should break through at some point. The dollar should go lower. Mustafa says, I still have my short QuantumScape and SQQ. Good. You should. Good on you, Mustafa. So Mustafa is part of my elite program. I've been encouraged. He was on my webinar when I said there's no risk at $41. Mustafa, what price did you get short QuantumScape? So good on you, man. So, sometimes it's easier said than done. When I tell people that I'm in these trades for weeks, it takes, it obviously takes a strong stomach, and people say, well, you have a lot of courage. But to me, the patterns tell me, that, there's only one direction after a while. So Mustafa is one of, our great supporters and elite program. And that's an example of, how you can, make a lot of money over time. The SQQQs that's an inverse. So if you want to short the NASDAQ, SQQ is what's called a triple inverse. So it'll go up 3 times. So if the NASDAQ's down 2% in a day, this will be up 6%. So it's kind of a great way. I do see that there is a, double bottom at $10.50. And, I think that this is an area where, it might be a sweet little risk reward. Where you could probably, get long here, put your stop under today's low, and see how that, how that feels. So Mustafa, you did exactly what I did. Mustafa got short at 41, took profit at 26. I did the same because they looked like there was some price, increase. I didn't know how long it would extend, and then I got short at 27.70, which was right under the low of that little inside day bar, Mustafa, when you asked me that one day when it closed at like $29 if you short it. And I said no, and then it was, it never went higher after that. But I couldn't know at that time how much more follow through. And then after the next day, that told me everything I needed to know. And then I could understand my risk reward relationship. And I got re-short at 27.70. And, now we'll go for another ride. We're now at the low of the day at 24.25 in QS. Trey says, where can we purchase SQQ? That's usually through a stockbroker entity. It may not be available to you guys, in other lands. Jeet says, IBM made a double top. So I've been kind of looking for IBM to kind of peter out somewhere in this area. I don't know if I would short it, but I think it's, it's had its run. It's had a great run. And I think that, it's probably in a pretty good resistance level now. And I would, I would not chase that. Dio says, do you think gold will go higher from its current position? Yeah, it's got a lot of headwinds between here and 1950. So the path of least resistance in gold is higher, but, I never know when, some other thing can kick in and take it lower. So yeah, but for right now, gold is going higher, and it looks good. Shola says, can you check odd Canadian? So I do think, by and large, odd Canada is, coming down and look like it's gonna come down. It's just in this support zone on the daily charts at around the 92.5 area. So I would be short on a bounce. Australian versus Canadian. The Canadian dollar is very strong, and we're at some support levels on odd CAD, but I would use. I don't even see that there's going to be much of a bounce here. So I would, start, dipping a toe in the water and using any bounce to get short. $24.21 on QuantumScape. So, yeah. And then I'm looking at this other little stock, AYX. It's kind of unchanged on the day. To me, I think that thing goes lower. Kind of watching, Tesla, what it does in here. It had a very big breakdown. It had, some support the other day. Kind of just want to see what it does here today. It's at a very interesting juncture. And so here's a thing where I could make a case of it going up. I could make a case for it going down. I don't really know where my risk is. And so, even if I took a shot on something like this, I would, do a small thing. Whereas, I loaded up on QuantumScape because I could understand the risk reward relationship. So sometimes, stocks are, in between these huge levels and, what have you, and it just needs more time where you can drill down the risk. And then sometimes all of the risk has been drilled out of it when all of it has just been drained out. QuantumScape, just by bouncing, it just got tighter and tighter and tighter to where it just got this sweet zone. And, this is all I've been focusing on. So people ask me about gold and dollar Canadian. I've had positions in these things and I've made actually tons of money because I don't even pay attention to them. I just was short dollar Canadian and I'd go a couple of days without even looking at the position. I ended up making, I don't know, 150 grand on 2 positions in there. But I've just been, watching this trade like a hawk. And just, this is where my focus has been. And I've really just loaded up on this thing because it just was a risk relationship that I could understand. And I think that's really what it's all about. So, and I just started thinking about this recently. I have a lot of trainings and people ask me about risk and discipline. And I have, kind of a standard thing, just risk 0.5% per trade. You're not going to blow yourself out if you risk 0.5% per trade. The tortoise wins the race. But then there are these times, these sweet spots where, it's not only the risk per trade, but it's the risk reward on a particular play. And obviously you have to have, some knowledge and understanding. And I look at the markets in a certain way. And when the markets kind of line up in the way that suits my eye. So, you see there's a lot of golf courses and some players, always win on a certain golf course because the layout, somehow just suits their eye, suits the way they play fades and drills and all of that. And so there was just certain things about the patterns, the directions of QuantumScape that, to a lot of people, it didn't look like anything. But to me, it looked like something where there was no more risk. And I don't know if that makes sense to you guys. And especially right now. I mean, I know it's fallen to new lows, but there's nothing to hold this thing up. So I can't see, that this doesn't just keep falling. I haven't even put it up all day. Yeah, just, it's made a new low. There's just nowhere this thing can go but lower. Dre wants to look at Canadian yen. Also in a big bad uptrend, hovering at, a huge multi-year resistance level. I would just, look for this to keep consolidating. The more it kind of hangs out at this 90 to 91, I think it's just going to keep going higher. I know it's had a huge move, but the path of least resistance in these yen pairs seems higher. So again, I think, during now we go into May, June, July, sometimes in the FX, it can get very range bound, and it can really slow. The volatility starts slowing down and contracting. Those are my least, I want to see where things are going to go from one direction to the other. When things start just dying, then, I'm just going to go find another game to play. So right now, like I said, I think dollar's going to go lower long term. All of these Australian dollar, pound, Canadian dollar that are, making new highs against the dollar will continue to do so. There could be, another several weeks of just going sideways. And it's really the same with the yen pairs. And the more the yen pairs just hover and consolidate, without doing too much here, to me, the more these things are just going to launch big time. These things, the yen, it looks like it's about to break a major secular primary multi-decade trend, going lower. And now, the correlated pairs against the yen are going to go higher. The yen looks like it's starting to weaken after many decades. So I think that's going to be, huge play going forward. All right, guys, I think I'm going to end it there. I've got a, webinar that I've got to save my voice for tonight. So thanks for checking in. And I wish you guys a healthy and prosperous trading day, and I'll see you tomorrow.